Hi, I'm Captain Jeff Coates of D3 TV. I was actually born along the shores of the Susquehanna Flats in the town of Aberdeen, Maryland, the self-proclaimed decoy capital of the world. And in upper Chesapeake Bay gunning style decoys, there's been famous names such as Holly, Dye, Graham, and Mitchell, just to name a few. One of those names I haven't mentioned is the Jobs family. Today is the Monday after the 29th annual Havre de Grace Decoy Festival in May. We've been able to sit down in Captain Harry's shop with himself and his sons, talking about ducks, dogs, and decoys. I hope this is something that you enjoy. Captain Harry, Bobby, Charles, Joey, we just got done the Havre de Grace Decoy Show. Thanks for having us in here this morning. I mean, how much history, memories, tradition is in this building?
Oh my, I built this building in 1976. All of us together. We put it together and we had a lot of memories in this place.
I can imagine.
Yeah, these two had a lot of snowball fights.
Yeah. Not in here. This was a free building, wasn't it? It came from the proving ground. Most of the wood.
No,
Pennsylvania.
no, you were Bobby.
Oh, Bobby's shop came from
Yeah.
the proving ground.
Pennsylvania, wasn't it?
This comes
Pennsylvania.
from Old Charlie,
Yeah.
Pennsylvania. Remember we went up there and got the barn to
Got all
build it out of?
Barn beams and everything. Yeah.
No, I don't remember that much. I was too young then.
Yeah, he was just a little kid back then. But
Yeah.
So all you guys grew up in here then, basically you carving, and this is what you started out doing and what you remember from the beginning?
More or less, more or less.
well, the beginning started a little bit before that, with carving and duck hunting and stuff. With my dad working at Madison shop, and I grew up and worked in Madison shop. These two guys here, Joe and Charles, they were a little bit younger than that, but back in the mid '60s when the bushwhacking was going on, that's when all the hunting started. Prior to that with us.
So then pretty much everything you guys made actually got used then in that time period?
More then than now.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
More
yeah.
than. A lot of people was using gunning decoys. I mean, wooden decoys. Didn't have plastic.
Yeah, that was pre-plastic.
Didn't have plastic then.
So the concept, most of the decoys were used for gunning more than collecting.
There's a lot more materials now. Decoys being made out of a lot different materials than there were back then, Styrofoams and plastics and things like that. And they're a lot lighter, but, who cares? We got big boats now. We can put a wooden decoy in it. Everybody should have wooden decoys because they buy a $2,000 gun, $2,000 dog, $500 coat. They might as well have good decoys.
Well, back in the '60s, that's when a lot of people had rigs made for themselves, and my dad carved a lot for the DuPonts in Wilmington, and a lot of people bought big rigs of decoys where they might buy 50, 60, 70 decoys at a time. They had big farms, and they'd have how many goose decoys do you make for them? Old Mr. Bankhead over there.
Billy Bankhead.
Yeah, he'd make them a rig of goose
300 or
decoys.
400.
So there's a lot of people that bought the decoys to gun with back in the '60s, early '70s.
It'd be pretty interesting to know if they didn't invent plastic, what it would be like.
I often think about that. I mean, pretty much a wooden decoy is really that special little place in time where just materials and the need for something to gun over. I mean, that fit the bill for that time period, right?
I mean, they made cork back then. That was the only other thing.
Plastic decoy for a bushwhack rig
Would have never worked, would it?
was no good.
Worked.
They bobbed too much, flipped over and what have you.
And
It was never no good for
if you shoot them,
bushwhack
if
rig.
you shoot them, they sink. So you shoot these, they keep on going.
They would sink.
Now, Captain Harry, bushwhack rig. Explain to us what is that exactly?
A bushwhack rig is a sculling boat. It's a boat anywhere from 16 to 18 foot long that you put the decoys out 100 yards from the decoys, back the boat up 100 yards from the decoys, and you put them out in a U shape. All depends which way the wind was blowing, the tide was. what have you, and you leave the center of it half open, and the ducks circled around and went down in there, and then you scull down into the decoys and beat on the side of the boat or what have you, and they jump, and then you'd shoot at them. We made, well, Mitchell made them, canvasbacks, cork canvasbacks. That was for the plastics. And they were big, oversized cork decoys. And you'd put 4 or 5 of them right in the middle of the U. You had the wind behind you, the scull, and you had curtains up on the side of the boat. Everything was white. The boat was solid white. That was the way a bushwhack rig worked.
Yeah, and only the one oar stuck out the stern of the boat. They
Yeah,
didn't
2
have
men in the bow of the
2
boat.
men in the bow, yeah.
Shooting.
So you had 2
Yeah.
guns in the front and somebody run. So basically,
Sculling.
so a 3-man.
Yeah.
You had a gun in the
Yeah.
back, and the
Yeah.
man in the back that was sculling would shoot the cripples. Or
And
shoot
not
at
many
'em.
people know how to scull either. They say, yeah, I know how to scull.
I still got my old sculling oars right outside of this
I got
building.
his old sculling oar hanging up. I got the good one at home.
You got one?
I
You
got
knew
one
that?
of the good ones at home.
Who's got the good one?
I got the
Done
good
captured
one.
that.
I got the
We'll
good
start
one.
that up one day.
Can you skull?
Yeah, I know how to scull.
Yeah, okay.
He put me in the boat one night. It was
Yeah, he can
one
scull.
evening. I says, I want to learn how to scull. And went down the park, put the boat overboard. And he's up in the front. He said, just hold on to the oar. And after you get, you turn it over and pull it back, turn it over. Well, a lot of people get it going. It look like an outboard motor when it run aground with water blowing up in the air. They don't know how to scull. So, but once you get the hang of it, it's like riding a bike. You never
There's
forget.
to make a scull oar, we used to get the big oars from down in Baltimore off of them lifeboats off of them ships, and they were 16, 18 foot long. And to make a scull oar, the bottom of the blade is flat, or curvature. The top of the blade is curvature. And you had to spoke shave that oar down to get it made. It'd take you all day to make a scull oar. The best man around here that I know of that made a scull oar was a man by the name of Bailey Maltz. He was the best head carver that I think on the East Coast as far as making a wooden decoy, Bailey Maltz. There was another fellow around here that made heads by the name of Ed Sampson. He made a lot of heads, what have you. Once upon a time, Madison Mitchell, had, 15 men working in the shop. You think this shop's small, you ought to seen his shop. But everybody had a job to do. Everybody sat in one corner, everybody had the same job. Really.
Now we've talked a little bit about bushwhacking and gunning. Primarily, everything you all did or have done is out on the flats.
90% of it, yeah.
As far as gunning goes,
Yes.
Yeah,
well, we
bushwhack.
had fun down the Bohemia River.
Yeah, Bohemia. We had some goose pits and some goose
Yeah,
blinds.
when I was a kid, with all of us, we'd go body booting with our dad, and we were cripple shooters. We
most of 'em-
never. I mean, we got to get in the boots and shoot at flying ducks and geese, but they put us in about noon when the sun was high.
Yeah.
And there you'd see a goose fly around once in a while, and that was about it.
Get out
Our
of there.
older
It's my
brother
turn to
didn't
get
want
in.
us to interfere with his friends going
Yeah.
back,
So we'd be cripple shooters, and really, believe it or not, never shot at flying ducks and geese until, you were 10, 11, 12 years old. We were always cripple shooters. I mean, kids nowadays, when they're 8, 9 years old, they're shooting at ducks coming in decoys, but we were cripple shooters.
You
I
did
had a
one time
chance.
when you and the old man went out in the aluminum boat and put me in the boat.
Yeah, I
And
remember
then
that day.
after school deal, and then I went to sleep.
That was the
I said, I
last.
think I'm going to take a nap. Go off the rig, a couple hundred yards. I think I'm going to take a nap, and then I heard this gun, boom, boom, and then I went in there, kind of woke up, went in there. I asked my dad. I said, "What are you shooting at?" He said, "Where you been?" I said, "I'm just asleep on the boat." As soon as I said that, I knew I messed up.
That was one
I
of the
think
last.
I don't know if I got a hand or not across the head, top of the head or what.
That was
But
one of the
that
last.
was some learning there.
Yeah, that was one of the last times he went body booting.
You don't go to sleep when you're watching somebody in the booth.
And before he left the boots, he went, "Don't you dare go over there and go to sleep." He's over there stone dead asleep, boy.
Yeah.
Years ago, there used to be, 50, 60 rigs out on them flats gunning. Bushwhacking, body booting, shore blinds were all down along the western shore. There was 8 or 10 shore blinds down this western shore. And ducks were like leaves on the trees. There was just thousands of ducks. Really.
But now you got to have an act of Congress to get a spot to hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why we body boot. We never hunted in field years ago. You know, never hunted in fields years ago.
50 years ago, if you going over and knocked on a farmer's door to ask him to build a goose blind in a field, he'd laugh at you.
Well,
There was no goose blind. There was no goose. Everything was on the water.
no geese 50 years ago here.
And there wasn't no geese to mount anything 50 years ago. It was all ducks.
It was the canvasbacks. That's what it was.
All
the
ducks.
canvasbacks.
When we body booted, it was a lot of geese. But when they body booted early, you know, in the 50s, there was ducks that they body booted.
Well, ducks.
But geese in the 70s, Bobby body booted in the 70s.
Yeah, a lot of
There
geese
was
in the 70s.
oh,
Tons of geese.
A
Lots
lot
and
of
lots
geese
of
and
geese.
mallards and black ducks and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But the canvasbacks sort of disappeared.
Yeah.
Well, the celery did after Agnes in 72 or 73. That kind of took care of everything with the grasses.
I put the icing on the cake, or took the icing off the cake, one or the other.
That's the main thing, the grasses. The grasses for the food.
You can
Gotta
get-
have the food.
You can get these ducks back here. That ain't no problem. They used to have what they call a sanctuary down at the Battery on the Susquehanna Flats. Odin Keene used to be the game warden at the Battery, and there was a sanctuary there. I still know where the sanctuary line run, and you wasn't allowed to gun in that sanctuary.
Yeah, right. They put flags across there every year, right across the tail end of the flats.
And but you can get the ducks back. Only thing you need is corn. I mean, it'll bring them back. It would bring them back, guaranteed. Bring them back.
Corn brings
But
them
there's
back
no,
everywhere.
there's grass on these flats. Some of the ducks has come back and geese and what have you. But there's no wild celery.
But it's not like it used to be. Back in the 60s when I was a little kid, my job was to sit up on top of the boat and watch the canvasbacks land to the decoys. And I'd run downstairs. Hey, they just landed the decoys. And they all run out of the cabin to skull down on them. And they look like little bumblebees flying all around, you know. But you don't see that much anymore. A few years back, about 3 or 4 years ago, we had a bunch of blackheads out on the flats. And that's because the grass came back some. I don't know if it's going to be as good as it was the last 3 or 4 years this year. Depends on the runoff, what we have.
That grass gets I think that grass gets that algae bloom, and
Yeah.
it gets on the bottom. If you're walking on the bottom now, like this winter, you
There's a
walk
lot-
out there. There's so much. It was
lot
like
of algae.
steel wool. It was algae and stuff. And
There's
it just
no
gets on that
natural
grass.
river
It lays
flow.
it right down. You know.
No natural river flow. Conowinga Dam's got that shut right off. No natural river flow. Years ago, they used to have ice hammocks out on the flats before they built these atomic plants above the Conowinga Dam and warmed the water up 5 or 6 more degrees. No natural river flow. And we used to have ice hammocks out on them flats. I've gone to an ice hammock out there as high as a house, 3-story house.
We had a couple this year.
Yeah, they was out
Did they
there.
have a couple
Yeah.
hammocks out
We had
there?
a couple good afternoons out there by the ice hammocks
Okay.
this year.
The blackheads were out there this year, but
Not like they were 3 or 4
they
years
were down
ago,
on
but,
the tail. They were way down on the tail
Yeah.
end.
but they're not like they were back in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s and going on back in time.
Really?
Especially when Captain John Smith came up to bay.
No, they weren't like that.
We
Nothing
have
like
there's
that.
a lot of ducks there early, like early October.
It has
You know,
improved.
but then they, you know, when that grass goes away, they leave. You know, it gets cold and that water gets cold, they end up leaving. But a lot of them ducks are eating them clams now and everything else, so, you know, they go to a different food source.
A lot of grass out there, but it's milfoil.
No fool.
Yeah.
Joe, you just said blackhead. You get away from Chesapeake Bay, man. People have no idea what you're talking about.
Bluebills.
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 Skulls.
Bluebills.
Bluebills.
Broadbills.
Skulls.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
blackhead.
do look at you when you say blackheads. You're like, what's a blackhead?
Mostly lessers, I would
There's a
think.
blackhead right
You
there.
remember when we was going to go bushwhack the blackheads down on Potomac?
Yeah.
There must have been 100,000 blackheads down on Potomac River. Oh, this is about what, 15 years ago? We had a bushwhack boat, and we're just looking for blackhead decoys. We come up to him and say, we need some blackhead decoys. So he said, for what? He's going to go bushwhacking blackheads. He says, it's not going to work. I said, bull crap. It'll work. So we went through all that trouble. Didn't work.
Didn't work.
They won't set in the decoy. They won't set in the bushwhack rig. They're hit in the bushwhack rig and start swimming right out.
Yeah,
By the time you get to them, they're 300 yards below the
gone.
decoys.
They're out.
Once in a great while, if you get to the underneath the wind where they want to get and you're gunning, they might set in the decoys. I've killed black ducks in the bushwhack rig. They get in there on a good sunny day when it's slick cam, and they go to sleep. Once in a while, you can get up on a black duck. You can get up 50 yards. Of course, them days we're shooting lead shot. Now we're shooting popcorn. What we're shooting now. Crippling more ducks than you're killing with that steel shot.
Well, you could bushwhack redheads too. Redheads and canvasbacks mainly.
Yeah.
They'd stay there.
But I worked up to Susquehanna for guys up there above the dam.
Yeah, up above that dam.
Mallards. You can
They could kill trash ducks up there in the bushwhack rig. They'd sit. But down below that dam, when you get in this open water, they wouldn't sit. They won't sit.
Yeah.
They won't sit.
You can kill mallards. A few mallards in the bushwhack rig.
Anybody ever use a layout boat here, out on these flats?
I'm getting ready to.
Has everybody?
I'm getting ready to
Anybody
buy
ever
one.
done it?
There's a few people that do it. Yeah, they kill some
We've-
ducks and geese. Yeah.
They built didn't build it. You would take a bushwhack boat and paint it brown, and they call it a reed boat. Put reeds up around it, but them ducks wouldn't. They darted 100 yards. They wouldn't come into
Just
the
like they
decoys.
do now for everybody out
Yeah,
there.
they don't come back.
It's one of the reasons all the blackheads go down on the tail end, because everybody gets a 100-yard shot at them, and they just run them off them flats on the weekends. There's still 20 or 30 boats out there on the weekends now.
20 or 30 hunters and 20 or 30 bass boaters too.
Yeah,
So
right.
Yeah.
That's where things have changed.
That's
You know, you got bass boaters run all around with their big motors and run all over the place out there. It's kind of hard for a duck to sit in one place. Where it used to be. You used to sail down there, right?
right. Yeah. Yeah.
Guys, what's the difference between a decoy and a decoy?
Same thing.
Same thing?
Just spelled different.
Same thing. A decoy is a.
It's
decoy.
just like in the old days, they called them decoys. They call them decoys now. It's just like a pintail now. They used to call them sprigtails. Sprigtails, same duck. It's, you know,
Here's the
not
guy-
a long-tailed duck or long-tailed duck and old squall. They're the same thing. It'd always be old squall to me.
A
Lady
mallard-
asked me the other day, she said, do you put pink on them bills to attract the ladies to buy them ducks? I said, no. I said, you put it on there because that's what's on there. And they are.
Years ago, they called a mallard a gray mallard. Called a black duck a black mallard. Years ago. In the 30s and 40s. And part of the 50s. Gray mallard and a black mallard. You call them a black mallard now, nobody knows what you're talking about. Really. Boy, come up to the show and give me 2 bags of ducks, you know, the carrying bags. I signed them, turned them over, look at them, they were his.
Joey, these cans you brought, what are these all about?
That's a pair of
Way back,
1950s canvasbacks made by my father back 1950 what?
I don't know, 2.
1952
something
or
like that.
3. And this is an original pair that came out of a bushwhack boat that's featured in the book Waterfowl Tomorrow.
You ever see the book?
And
We're looking
the
for
bodies are
pictures
made
in.
out of blackhead bodies, so you can fit more in the boat.
We used 200 of them. What we used.
And that's a match
right
pair
there
right
by
out of
that guy
the
in
boat.
the, catching carp. It's right there by that guy catching carp.
You should remember the page.
I don't remember.
It was
the
50
page.
years ago.
Oh,
I remember this guy writing this book in the 50s. Of course, I was carrying hunting parties too.
Are these some of the first real gunning decoys you ever made?
Yeah,
Huh?
yeah.
I got a pair of them.
You got a pair of those?
J. Evans and McKinney gave them to me.
Jay Evans.
Well, guess what? Nobody gave me these. I paid $500 for these.
And back then, how
What?
much you sell them for?
Sell them for?
You didn't sell them.
Oh, you give them away. You give them away, traded or what have you. When they cut the canvas backs down to one duck, and then they cut it out completely for 4 or 5 years in the. I guess it was the late 60s. They cut it out completely. No killing canvas.
Get too far back.
And decoys in that era wasn't decoys like they are today. I had 25 Charlie Joyner geese, and a boy worked for him, brought over here for me to sell. I had them down a cellar. I couldn't give them away. You couldn't give them, because nothing was, they didn't have no decoy shows to mount anything. The first decoy show was in New York. And Mitchell took
The other guy
a pair of mallards and a pair of pintails, sent them to New York.
said it's near the carp, but it's not near the carp.
It was more or less a competition show.
In the 50s?
No, that was in the 40s.
In the 40s.
The next show,
They took it out.
a real decoy show, like we had in Hardy Grace the last 3 days, showed up in Elkton, Maryland. Started the show. Him and a fellow by the name of Norris Pratt. And they had a show up there. It was one of the first shows, decoy shows, that you could sell anything. And it went off like a bomb, you know. Then everybody started having a decoy show here and there. Now every week you look at, there's somebody having a decoy show, or what have you. When I made them decoys, well, when I started working for Mitchell, Mitchell was selling decoys for $3.50 a piece. Canvasbacks, blackheads, redheads. Didn't make many mallards. Didn't make many black ducks, because everybody was shooting diving ducks, what they were shooting. And when I made them ducks, you could buy the piece of wood for 25 cents to make the body out of. Now the piece of wood to make the body out of costs $5. So, and the difference between then and today is the price of this stuff. It's going sky high. Just like paint. Paint's going sky high. When I started buying paint in the 70s, paint was like $3.50 a quart. That's $25 a quart.
Captain Harry, you were talking about costs. Costs have went up, but as far as decoy making goes, pretty much everything has stayed the same as far as materials and the processes.
You mean price-wise or
Well,
what?
you're talking about the cost of woods went up, cost of paints went up. I mean, basically, you still make the same thing there, right?
Same thing, yeah. But you got to raise the price on the stuff, or
Yeah.
you go broke.
Years ago now, this is how I started. They were 50 cents a piece.
No, they're not decoys.
They're not decoys though, but that's when the decoy collectors were buying them. Then you go to the round. This is a real nice pair.
Match set.
Yeah,
there.
match set right there.
Yeah.
Then I started carving them. Well, they're not really round. They're like a duck, but it's close. It's close. Then this is a full-size mallard that we all made together. It's signed by all of us. We made 1,700 for QVC. We sold 650 in 3.5 minutes. He got to telling stories on TV, and he couldn't get through his stories. The guy said, "Okay, Captain Harry, you're out of here."
You're done.
So what do you mean? He says, "You sold all your ducks. Get out of here." He sold them all.
Now it's time to get
Well-
something else.
You ever been up that joint?
No, I have not.
Ooh, that's a money-making operation.
Well, you see the progression in Charles's stuff from
Yeah.
square ducks to
Yeah.
round ducks, and everybody always asks us, how did you learn how to carve
hillside.
decoys? Well, I tell everybody, like I said, the Jobeses are the decoys, what the Ripkins are the baseball. We grew up doing it. I mean, if we were growing up in the baseball field, maybe we'd be baseball players, but you know, when you grow up doing it, and this is all you do, I mean, other than this and working on the water, fishing, crabbing, this is all we've ever done. Yeah, I'm 50 now. Hopefully we got a few more years in us. And
Yeah. Once you see it done so much,
Yeah.
you pick it up.
I mean, you know, it's,
You just pick it up
Yeah.
after a while. Once you see him paint so many times, and you're sitting here, and he tells you to do something so many times, you just pick it up after a while.
Automatic.
Yeah. This is where we start. This is where we spend a lot of time, right here.
Right there,
Right in the
on
other side of
edge
that shop.
There used to be another paint bench. Paint bench is outside.
Sat right here for a lot of hours. When he'd pick us up from school, we'd come here, and he'd say, "All right, do your lessons before we get started." And I was like, "I ain't doing that. I do what I wanted to do, and that's it." Then there'd be a pile of bodies out there that he turned all day long, about 250. He said, "Go ahead and spoke shave." So we'd sit there and spoke shave, and me and Joey'd have to stand on a block of wood because we were too short to reach the bench, spoke shave duck bodies.
Yeah.
So
talk about doing your lessons. I remember one time when I was a little kid, we were on a boat. He said, "Do your math." So I went in there and I just wrote all kinds of numbers down, right? I said, he ain't going to check that.
Right.
Then he come back out stern that boat. He said, "Get back in the cabin." He said, "You didn't do that right." Well, I was in trouble. He
I don't remember
caught me.
that.
You
He
checked
caught
up
me.
on him.
I checked up on him.
We were on the boat.
That.
We were on a boat out there fishing.
First time I took him fishing, he got seasick. We were gill netting shad.
he took me, first time I went goose hunting, I shit myself.
Oh, that's right.
I wouldn't have said that.
Guys, people that are not from this area, what makes your style of carving or an upper Chesapeake decoy an upper Chesapeake decoy?
You want to handle that? or
Hang
what?
on, hang
Who
on,
wants to
go
answer
ahead.
that question?
Go ahead.
Upper Bay decoy is a more or less solid bodied decoy with most of the times the tail is turned up a little bit, but this this
Turned
particular
up like
50s
that.
canvasback
Like that Maui.
is turned down. He just wanted to make them that way, I guess, that particular time. But they're mostly solid bodied wooden decoys. If you took one of those to New Jersey, they would throw it out of the decoy contest like they have before.
That's right.
Up in New Jersey.
They got to be hollow up
They
there.
got to be hollow in New Jersey.
I can't figure out why.
Well, they
Gone
need
out
light.
of the skiffs. What do you call them?
Barnegas?
Barney
Yeah,
Bay
the
skids.
sneak boats, and they think them things can handle 20-foot waves. Them guys up there, you know.
But they're flat bottom. I don't see how they stay
Yeah.
upright.
Different
Yeah,
style, different
ours
area.
are round bottom, lead keel, ring
Same
and
way
stake.
out west. Them flat bottom decoys. They
These
must
ride,
gone in the pond.
they ride the rough water. That's what
Yeah.
they're made for, riding rough water. They got the ballast weights on the bottom of them.
Lead, yeah.
Ring and
When they
stake
go over,
with the
they'll
time
come
on
back up. See, they'll turn right back up again.
it. The only thing that will go wrong with them is when it's cold. It'll
ice up.
The heads will ice up to a solid block of ice when it gets real cold.
They get a beard on them. They get a
But they're,
icicle on
but and the other thing is they used hundreds of them.
Yeah.
And they
They
were
used
easy to
hundreds of
pick up, wrap them up. You know, you get nothing against the bigger cork decoys or any decoys, but they're bigger, they're harder to wind up, the ropes, you know. And them decoys used to have, what, 15-foot of line on them?
Yeah.
I mean,
Some of them did.
He'd pick them up
most
every,
of it,
every
what,
day.
12, 15-foot of line?
I picked them up and moved them 3 times a day.
You know.
From
And when
the
you
eastern
pick
to
up,
the flats to the western. All depends where ducks were flying.
when you'd pick up 200 or 300, and then the sink boxes years ago have 500 to 700.
And
That's
I
a
don't
lot
think
of
guys
decoys.
these days want to put the time in making laying a nice rig like that anymore. Of course,
Well, ain't no sense in it. You only kill one duck.
Well, if you want a good hunt, it doesn't make any difference. You know, a lot of people lay the decoys on a line compared to even some puddle ducks and stuff, you know, and not dive ducks. They lay them on a line. I don't think it looks as good as if you lay them individual. And it takes more time and it takes a little more effort, but if you want a good hunt and you want a good outcome, then you lay them like you did back in the 50s, you know, individually. I don't mind putting time into laying decoys, you know. A lot of guys go out there body booting or something. Oh, that's enough. Lay them all out, I say. Doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, Upper Bay Decoy, I know it to be very collectible. Amongst the four of you, I mean, how far? You know, tell me something about where your birds have been, who's got them, where they've went. You know, give me some background on that, or some an interesting story maybe.
Well, I made a bunch of decoys for the president. What's his name?
Clinton.
Yeah, Clinton.
He's a big duck hunter.
Yeah, he's a duck hunter. I made decoys for him.
Arkansas. Yeah, it's in Arkansas.
They're all over the place. They're from West Coast to the East Coast. Really.
I
Can't think
don't know.
of who
I
I
made some decoys for the Rebecca T. Ruark out of the mast.
I remember that.
Yeah, they sold for $500 a piece, the first 20. Then I called the guy and says, hey, I says, these decoys are selling pretty good. He says, well, they're $1,000 a piece now. And the rest of them sold for $1,000 a piece. Some of them been resold. The most expensive one, $7,500.
Now, I know the story behind that, but for everyone else, what's unique about that?
Unique about that, the Rebecca T. Ruark is the oldest skipjack on the bay, built in 1886. And he sank it down off Tillman somewhere. So we wanted to restore it, didn't have the money, so he said, let's make some decoys out of the mast. So that's what we did, made 82. 82 decoys.
Matter of fact,
out
one of
the
them's in the
mast.
Smithsonian.
One of them's in the Smithsonian.
I've seen it down in Smithsonian.
Smithsonian.
Yeah.
It's too.
because of the historical factor
Of,
Yeah,
of
they-
the
of
skip, of the skipjack,
skipjack,
right?
because that's skipjacks are on the
There's only
national
a couple,
treasure
a couple
Yeah.
left.
list of for the federal government.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Martha Lewis and
all
Hardy
skipjacks.
Race.
Yeah.
Martha Lewis is one of them.
There's
I
only
made
a few,
I
just a
made
few
the
left.
decoys out of the boom of the Martha Lewis. They put a new boom on it. There was two of them at the Hardy Gray show in the auction. And the
Well,
other
we-
decoys where you made put where they
Oh, they're
went.
all over the place. They're all over the country. They're overseas, all over the country, and
And one reason
The
for
vet-
that is Captain Harry.
Well.
Captain Harry's been from the east coast to the west coast, and he's probably got a duck in every single state.
oh yeah, his decoys are
Guarantee
everywhere.
you, there's one in every state of his.
Yeah. But the
And
best-
he's done more for the decoy world than anybody else around. Now he don't travel like he used to. So, but we're gonna put some. He's gonna start traveling, going all over the place, and
I didn't know that.
Get a helicopter.
I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
Get a
yeah.
new helicopter.
the
flying.
best.
But he, go ahead.
I was gonna say the
Yeah.
best decoys made though is the ones we make for ourselves that we take out there and we take hunting and you
Yeah.
see them work, and it's neat to
Yeah.
watch
Right.
the birds come into the decoys that you made yourself and work them. I mean that's when you get satisfaction out of what you do.
I got 100 wooden canvasbacks that I made, and I remember the day we painted them. We were going to paint them on a Sunday morning. I asked my father to help me paint them over at my shop in Aberdeen Maryland, and he showed up on a Sunday morning, and I was out a little late on Saturday night, and I forgot about us painting the decoys Sunday morning, and it was about 6 o'clock. He showed up, and on the door, and I woke up and I said, "What are you doing?" "Oh, we're supposed to paint them decoys." And out we went, me with a big head and everything, and we got them painted. But I had the 100 decoys, and everybody wants to use them all the time. You know, they always want to. Can I use them? Can I use them?
I lent a body booting rig to a boy one time. He lost about 40 geese, full-size geese, in the ice. And years ago, when you were bushwhacking, all that grass was out there. You'd be looking in the decoys with the glasses, and all of a sudden you'd see a decoy go boom under the water. There was that milfoil on the bottom. Roll the string up, pull the decoy right under. I've lost some decoys that way. There was so much grass out on them flats. It's all changed now. It's all changed. How many rigs out on them flats now?
Well, there's
10 or
quite,
12.
quite a few people go out there, but now I think it's getting more popular. The internet's bringing everybody in.
They're not
They get
real.
on the internet.
They're not real big rigs.
They're not big rigs.
They're
Everybody
not-
goes in their boats and
You know,
hunts. And,
Bobby, he'd use 100 sets of frames in the 70s.
yeah, one time
you know?
I had 100 sets of frames and like 40,
I mean,
50 full body decoys,
We'll
goose decoys.
They will use 20 sets of frames, 25 sets of frames, and 100 full bodies or something like that. And I mean, and now it's styrofoam decoys with wood chips on them and stuff like that we made, and some of them are 35 years old that we have, you know, something like that he made years ago that came back or whatever, and we fixed up and kept them. But you know, years ago it was full body geese, wooden geese.
There's 10 or 12 rigs out there, and then might be 15 reed boats out there.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think decoys would I grow up as a kid. I mean, I grew up as a kid watching all the old timers, and I'm like, man, I want to be just like them guys when I get older. They get to hunt, they get to fish, they get to do everything. And basically, we've been living the dream, if you know what I'm saying. I don't know how much more or how much
You're gonna be dreaming.
longer the dream's going to keep on going.
30 years, 30
You know,
years.
I hope it's
will
to
be
the end
good.
of my life, but as far as our kids go, times are changing, things are changing. I don't know if you're going to have traditions as time goes on. We're kind of, everything's getting built up around us. We're losing all the areas and the places we used to do things, hunting and everything like that. But it's been a good life for us up till now. It's carried us a long way.
We get to do what we want to do, when we want to do it, if we can do it at that time. When you got to order ducks or something like that, you got to get them done. You get them done. You know, before Christmas, I want to go hunting. Can't go hunting because you're working on stuff. In October, you know, somebody wants to go to South Dakota hunting, or you can't do that because you're getting ready for Waterfowl Festival.
I'm going
I'm not.
this year.
But you know, it's to a point to where, you know, like when I was growing up, I wanted to be a welder, and then I had something in my brain I wanted to be a welder, and I went over to Wiley's shipyard and took a test, and it was about 5 degrees, and they were building the tunnels down here, and I went, am I out of my mind? with decoys and hunting with my dad and all that. When we graduated, we weren't going to college. We knew we weren't going to college, so we said, well, we're going to make ducks. And it all just folded right into that, making decoys. Everybody asked me, how you doing? I says, another 30 years like this, we'll be fine. And, you know, you make a lot for Ducks Unlimited. You make decoys for Delta Waterfowl, all different organizations that sell decoys and raise money and stuff. And hopefully the people keep collecting them. And we make decoys now for people. The majority of the decoys aren't used for gunning anymore.
But I still think that people have to be educated what decoys are.
Yeah.
What they were originally used for.
Yeah.
I think they lose the value of.
Yeah, and
whatnot
a
now.
lot of people, to me, they do not realize how much time goes into a decoy. They see a black, red, and white canvas back, and they say, well, that duck's no problem. Well, they come and spend 2 weeks in the shop, and they'll see exactly how long it takes. And a lot of people do that. They come and help us. They're like, my goodness, it takes a long time to make a decoy. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
You know, antique styles are faster. You know, they have cracks and dents. They're supposed to look like that. But a regular finish, you know, like a smooth finish like that, to get it, years ago, they weren't made like that. They were gunning decoys. They were used to hunt with, you know, and they didn't care about the nicks and dents and cracks. They put them overboard, and he can tell you they'd be going down the cut, putting eyes in them, you know, get them overboard. They need decoys, you know, so.
It's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, it's changed, and hopefully, you know, people keep collecting them. I mean, older carvers and stuff like that, they, you know, everybody asks me that, says, what makes a decoy worth more money? I says, the carver. I says, that's the main thing. You know, a lot of old carvers, you know, they don't make them anymore, but.
You're almost the old carver now.
Yeah, we're getting older.
We don't
I
realize
hope
how
we get
old we are.
old. It's a different way of life. It's a good way of life. We don't make $1 million, but You know, when you ain't got to go in and be at the office all day, inside, all that stuff and everything.
None of us could do that.
No, I couldn't.
In other words, we couldn't have a real job. That's what.
Exactly. I mean,
Everybody claims to me, well, what, you don't have a real job. I said, well, it's work just like you do, but I'm the boss.
Yeah. A lot of people don't realize, I mean, if we go to work at 9 o'clock in the morning, we might work till 5 or 6, but after 7 or 8 o'clock, we're back out in the shop again. You can come by my shop at 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and I'm there.
Not me no more.
Sometimes
he-
sleeping at the
I've been
bench.
there,
Yeah,
done that.
sleeping at the bench.
I caught him before sleeping right at the bench.
He used to say
Oh.
we'd be painting green winged teal. We have 250 green winged teal to paint. He'd go, I said, how much longer are we going to paint? He says, till we get them done. I'm like, oh. So,
I guess we're lucky to do what we're doing. You know, I didn't think I'd do it because I'm under a roof all the time. I don't want to, you know, that's one thing I don't like, to be under the roof all the time. But we have other things we do. We work on the water. We've all worked on the water. And when the iron gets hot for that, we'll do that, you know. But we have an advantage. When things get bad on the water, we run right back into the decoy shop, you know. And even if you don't have an order or something, you can always do something. You can always, you know, use your imagination. Say, I'm going to make this, or I'm going to make that. I'm going to make a different pattern or different duck. Even there's different species of ducks that I haven't made. I can always, you know, do that if I wanted to. We always have a place to go. That's the shop. And that's what our father taught us to do. So, and we're grateful to him for that. To make a living doing what we're doing, being brought up, you know, into it. We carve all the time. We may be hunting in the goose pit, take a basket of duck heads with us or whatever, you know, or out on a boat once in a while. But you know, we make a decent living at it because we know what to do from step 1 to step 50. We know what to do. We know what we need. We don't have to ask a question what to do, what color to paint on a duck. I thought when we painted with our father, how's he know what paints to get out for this? You know, it's just all in your head after so much time to put a wing patch on and to put what color on the breast and the head and the back feathers, and a learned thing. You know, you got to be around it long enough to do it. Like Charles said, there's a lot of people come in the shop, they want to help or they want to do something, or you get a young guy that wants to he says, I want to make decoys. Well, it's just not that you make decoys. You just don't sit down and make decoys. It's a monotonous one thing after another. You know, you might breast and tail 100 bodies at a time.
Wow.
Or cut out 200 heads at a time, you know.
We don't make one duck at a time.
We don't make one duck. And somebody doing that, they may look at you and go, well, I thought it was all fun and games, you know, all painting and, you know, carving heads all day. But it's not that.
Yeah, I think some people.
It's work. Our job is work, just as well as anybody else's.
Some people
work
think it's a
sometimes.
lot easier than what it really is. But it's a learning process to learn how to do it. It takes a little bit of time.
It's easy for us. It's easy for us because we have done it monotonously for many, many years because of our father.
Captain Harry.
yeah.
Because we learned he taught us it's like Ford and making a car, you know, it's a assembly line, you know.
So we go through a lot of phases, you know, like I say, fishing, crabbing, gunning. So we
And a lot of people think we make decoys in mass production, but they're not mass production.
That's not-
Mass production is when you make 10,000 pair of boots a day. Mass production is that. We make 100, you know, and everybody asks, how many decoys you make a year? I don't know. Don't want to know. We'll wonder where all the money went to.
I made 50 swan one time, and an old boy's dead now, by the name of Amos Waterfield. You ever heard of him?
I don't think that name.
Rock Hall. Used to be he was a collector and a seller.
Well, he was a big market gunner too.
Yeah, well, years
Back
ago, yeah.
years ago. Yeah.
he come in the shop and said, "What have you made all them swan for?" I told him, "Amos, it's only 50. There's 50 million people in the United States. What's 50 swan?" But the gunning rig, the big gunning rig days are gone. You can't, there is nobody that uses wooden decoys for 100, 150 decoys overboard. But the big rigs, the gunning rigs, they're gone. They're gone. They're not worth putting together anymore. Really. This is my 3 boys. I'll tell them everything I know. What have you. We've had a good life. And we gunned and fished together. And this is a good life. We're not millionaires, but we do what we want to do. We still gun a little bit. I don't, because I can't take the cold weather. But they still gun a little bit, catch a few fish and what have you. And they're my 3 boys, the best I got. So within, including this, we'll say we'll keep going as long as we can. This is my family, Bobby, Charles, and Joey. This is what it's all about. Ducks, dogs, and decoys. And that's what it's all about.